On the journey of seeking peace and wisdom, many people believe that religion begins with faith. But in Buddhism, the first doorway is not faith, it is awareness. In this video on the Buddha's Wisdom Journey channel, we will explore the deeper reason why the Buddha always emphasized awareness and the observation of the inner mind, rather than asking people to believe blindly, because it is awareness itself that becomes the light that helps us clearly see suffering and the path to liberation. There is a question that many people have quietly asked themselves on the journey of searching for the meaning of life. Why in Buddhism do people often speak about awareness, about observing the mind, about direct understanding, instead of emphasizing absolute faith as many other religions do? Why does the path that the Buddha pointed out not begin by asking people to believe, but begin with seeing, feeling, and realizing? In the modern world, faith can sometimes become fragile. People may believe in something today, but tomorrow they may begin to doubt that very thing. Faith can change depending on circumstances, emotions, and the things you hear from others. Therefore, if peace is built only on faith, then when faith begins to shake, the mind can easily fall into unease. For this reason, the path of Buddhism is not built on blind belief. Instead, the Buddha guided people to return to something deeper, to awareness, not believing something simply because someone else says so, but seeing for oneself, experiencing for oneself, and understanding for oneself. Imagine a person walking in the darkness of night. If someone tells them that there is light ahead, they may believe it or they may not. But when they walk forward, when they open their eyes clearly and see that light with their own eyes, faith is no longer necessary, because the truth has been seen. Awareness in Buddhism is exactly like that. It is not a distant or abstract concept. It is a simple yet profoundly deep ability of the mind. The ability to recognize what is happening in the present moment. When we are sad, we know we are sad. When we are angry, we know we are angry. When the mind is full of worrying, we recognize that the worrying is present. At first, this may sound very simple, but in reality, most people live their entire lives rarely being truly aware of their own minds. We are often carried away by thoughts, by emotions, by automatic reactions, without even realizing what is happening inside. A single sentence from someone else can make us angry for hours. A small memory can pull us into sadness that lasts for many days. A worrying about the future can keep us awake all night. And in all of those moments, we are usually swept away by the stream of the mind without clearly seeing it. That is why the Buddha did not ask people to believe that suffering exists. He simply invited us to observe. When we truly look deeply into our own lives, we will see for ourselves that suffering is a part of the human experience, not because someone says so, but because we have felt it ourselves. He also did not ask people to believe that greed, anger, and ignorance are the roots of suffering. Instead, he encouraged each person to look into their own mind. When greed appears, the mind becomes restless. When anger erupts, peace immediately disappears. When ignorance covers the mind, we easily make decisions that bring suffering to ourselves and to others. None of these things need to be believed. We only need to observe, and we will see. That is the deeper reason why Buddhism places such emphasis on awareness, because awareness brings a kind of understanding that no one can take away. Faith can be shaken by the words of others, but understanding that comes from direct experience is far more stable. When a person truly recognizes the nature of anger within their own mind, they no longer need someone to tell them that anger is dangerous. They have seen it. When a person truly realizes the impermanent nature of everything in life, they do not need someone to convince them that attachment leads to suffering. They have understood it through their own experience. For this reason, awareness is not a new belief meant to replace old beliefs. It is a way of seeing, a way of living, a return to reality. In awareness, people begin to see things they had never noticed before. They see that many of their sufferings do not come from the outside world, but from the way the mind reacts to that world. They see that many worries are simply stories the mind creates about a future that has not yet happened. They see that many sorrows come from clinging tightly to things that are always changing. And when these things are clearly seen, a transformation begins to happen naturally. Not because someone commands the mind to change, not because a belief forces us to live in a certain way, but because when the light of awareness shines and the darkness of ignorance gradually fades away. That is the quiet power of awareness. It is not loud. It does not impose. It is simply the light of understanding slowly opening within the mind. And that is why, for more than 2,000 years, the path that the Buddha pointed out has always begun from the same place. Look into your own mind. Observe your own life. Be aware of each moment that is unfolding. Because when awareness truly appears, people no longer live only by faith. They begin to live with wisdom. In fact, when it is said that Buddhism places emphasis on awareness rather than faith, it does not mean that faith has no value at all. Faith can still be a beginning, but on the path that the Buddha pointed out, faith is only like a door that opens the way, not the final destination. What matters far more is direct understanding, the understanding that arises from observing and experiencing one's own mind. If we look deeply into human life, we can see something very clear. Most suffering does not come from external events, but from the way the mind reacts to those events. Two people can experience the same situation, yet one sinks into suffering while the other maintains peace. This shows that the source of suffering does not lie entirely in the outside world, but in how we see and respond to it. For this reason, Buddhism does not begin by changing the world, but by understanding the mind. But to understand the mind, a person must learn to pause and observe. This is exactly what many people in modern society rarely do. Life moves quickly, thoughts follow thoughts, emotions follow emotions. Everything seems to be constantly moving. In that flow, people often react almost automatically to everything that happens around them. When someone says something unpleasant, anger immediately arises. When something does not go as expected, disappointment quickly appears. When we see someone else succeed, the mind of comparison and jealousy may quietly arise. All of these reactions usually happen very quickly, so quickly that we hardly have time to realize they are forming. We only feel their results: tension, irritation, unease. The awareness that Buddhism speaks about is the ability to see these processes while they are happening. When a person begins to observe their mind sincerely, they gradually realize that thoughts are not always reliable. Many thoughts are simply old reactions repeating themselves. Many worries are only imagination about the future. Many strong emotions exist only for a short time and then disappear like clouds passing across the sky. But without awareness, People often identify themselves with all of these things. When anger appears, we think I am angry, and we are completely carried away by that anger. When sadness appears, we think I am the one who is suffering, and we sink deeply into that feeling. Awareness creates a very important space in the mind. Within that space, we begin to see that thoughts are only thoughts, emotions are only emotions. They come, and then they go. They are not the entirety of who we are. When this is realized, a very subtle freedom begins to appear. Anger may still arise, but we are no longer completely controlled by it. Sadness may still visit, but we no longer sink into it as deeply as before. Worries may still appear in the mind, but we begin to see clearly that they are only stories the mind is telling. This very realization gradually weakens the power of suffering. This is also why the Buddha often encouraged people to see for themselves. He did not ask people to believe in a complex philosophical system. He did not ask people to accept a truth simply because it was spoken by an enlightened being. Instead, he invited each person to become the observer of their own life. When you truly observe your mind in moments of anger, you will see that anger has very strong energy. It changes the breath, it makes the body tense, it causes thoughts to become narrow. When you continue to observe, you will also see that anger does not last forever. If it is not continually fed by thoughts, it will gradually settle down. That is not something that needs to be believed. It is something that can be directly experienced. Similarly, when observing attachment in the mind, we will notice something interesting. The more tightly we cling to something, the more we fear losing it, and that very fear of loss becomes the source of worrying and unease. On the other hand, when the mind learns to loosen its attachment, a sense of lightness gradually appears, not because life becomes perfect, but because the mind no longer tries to control everything as before. These understandings do not come from reading books or listening to teachings. They come from awareness within each moment of living. And when a person continues to cultivate awareness in this way, they begin to realize something even deeper. Most human suffering is created by an unobserved mind. One negative thought can lead to dozens of other thoughts. A sad memory can make us sink into regret for many hours. A small worrying can grow into great anxiety simply because the mind continues repeating old stories. But when the light of awareness appears, that chain of reactions begins to be interrupted. We see thoughts as they are just forming. We see emotions as they are just arising, and the simple act of clearly seeing them already begins to change the way the mind operates. Gradually, people no longer live completely in the past or the future. They begin to live more in the present, not because they force themselves to live that way, but because awareness naturally brings the mind back to the moment that is unfolding. In that moment, many things that we previously overlooked began to become clearer. The breath becomes more vivid. The sounds of life become more real. The subtle emotions in the mind are also recognized more easily. Life does not necessarily have to change in order to become more peaceful. It is the way we are present with life that creates the difference. Therefore, the real reason Buddhism focuses on awareness is not to create a new philosophical system, nor to introduce a new belief. The deeper purpose is much simpler: to help people see the true nature of their own mind. And when people truly see their own mind clearly, wisdom begins to arise naturally, not wisdom borrowed from books, not wisdom repeated from the words of others, but wisdom born from direct understanding of this very life. When looking back at the entire path that the Buddha pointed out, we can recognize something very special. He did not try to build a system of beliefs for people to cling to. He did not ask people to believe in some invisible power in order to be saved. Instead, he simply and quietly pointed out something incredibly simple yet profoundly deep. Be aware. At first, this teaching may sound very simple, but if we reflect on it deeply, we will see that it is an invitation filled with power. Because awareness is not an idea to think about, but a way of living. It is the ability to return to oneself, to clearly see every movement of the mind, every emotion that is arising, every thought that is passing through. Within that awareness, people begin to understand life in a completely different way. We realize that much of the suffering we once carried was not caused by the world, but by a mind that was not being observed. We once chased after thoughts without realizing they were only streams of imagination. We once clung tightly to temporary emotions as if they would last forever. We once tried to control everything around us, yet forgot that our own mind was the place that needed to be understood the most. Awareness is like a lamp being lit in the dark room of the mind. When the light appears, many things that we could not see before begin to become clear. We see that anger is not an enemy. It is only a state of the mind that arises and then fades away. We see that sadness is not our true nature. It is only a wave of emotion passing through. We see that the endless thoughts in the mind are not always the truth. And when we clearly see these things, a very subtle transformation begins to take place. We are no longer easily carried away by every thought. We no longer react hastily to every emotion. We begin to have an inner space, a place where peace can arise. The wonderful thing is that this peace does not need to be created from the outside. It does not come from possessing more things, nor from controlling life more perfectly. It comes from a deep understanding of our own mind. That is exactly why the path of Buddhism always returns to awareness. Because when a person is truly aware, they are no longer guided by ignorance. They begin to live with understanding, with wisdom, with a very natural clarity within the mind. But it is important to understand that awareness is not something that can be achieved in a single day. It is like learning to look back at oneself after many years of being used to looking only outward. It requires patience, sincerity, and gradual practice in everyday life. Each time we notice a thought appearing in the mind, that is a moment of awareness. Each time we recognize anger rising before it controls our actions, that is a moment of awareness. Each time we return to the breath and realize that we are truly living in the present moment, that too is a moment of awareness. Those small moments, if nurtured over time, will gradually change the way we live. We become gentler with ourselves. We judge others less. We begin to understand that everyone is carrying their own suffering that sometimes they themselves do not even recognize. From there, compassion also begins to arise naturally. That is the deep beauty of the path of awareness. It not only helps people understand themselves, but also helps them see the world with a more open heart. Therefore, if there is one most important thing that this path wants to remind us, it is this: the peace we are searching for is not somewhere far away. It is not in the future, nor in the things we are trying to achieve. It lies within the awareness of each person. When we truly look into our own mind with sincerity, when we gradually understand what is happening within. The path to freedom from suffering begins to open, not like a sudden miracle, but like the sunrise slowly appearing after a long night. If these reflections make you think or help you look at your mind in a new way, take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments. Your reflections and experiences may become inspiration for many others who are also on the journey of searching for peace. And if you feel that content like this brings value to the journey of understanding yourself and understanding life, please subscribe to the Buddhist Wisdom Journey channel to continue walking together with stories, reflections, and the profound teachings of Buddhist wisdom. Because sometimes just one moment of pausing and being aware is enough to change the way we see life.